Hey y'all, it's Mikell. Thank you so much for voting for The Outsiders for me to watch that. We are starting off, wow, with a bang. Starting off the year, every month a new musical, and I appreciate all of your input that I hope that will keep coming this way this year. Now, you voted on The Outsiders, and it's almost embarrassing to say how little I actually knew about The Outsiders. I don't think it was on my reading list in high school, but I know that it is on lists. So I'd heard of the book. I knew it was well known. I knew at least it was well known enough that schools read it, right? Students read it in school. And I was pretty sure there was a movie, maybe. And I had heard the name Ponyboy before, right? I've heard the character's name. I did not know that Ponyboy was in The Outsiders. Okay, like when I tell you I was walking in with nothing. I was walking in with nothing. I'm very glad that I asked though about what should I know going into it, and I think I'm going to continue doing that because I need your help. Man, you guys said it was intense. You said it would be emotional, I would be emotional. Those were both true. I appreciated the warning for tissues greatly. Thank you for that. And I am curious, so I bought the book. I am going to read it. So now I'm curious what you guys said is different in the musical than in the book. And I love actually adaptations, side tangent from The Outsiders. I like when you can take books and then show movies or musicals or plays or other media based on the book, because I don't go in making sure that it's exactly the same as the book. That's just a personal preference, with mine. I always assume that the movie or the play is just an adaptation of the book. So it's trying to get the essence of what that book is, what those characters are, their challenges, their growth, and then portray it in another medium. Although I've got to say, Wicked, the movie, my personal opinion, it's a masterclass on how to take a musical and turn it into a movie. But that is another thing. Let's go back to The Outsiders. So obviously I went down a rabbit hole in preparing for Throwback Thursday, all about The Outsiders. Also because I was in the Outsiders mood, right, after it. And in this, I want to talk a little bit about the story first, and then I'll talk about the production side of it, my thoughts on that. So, the story, holy cow. Like, what great characters, I guess. And what's I thought was really cool was they were specific enough that you cared about them as individuals and like you knew their names, but I feel like each character could have right, it represents not a stereotype, but maybe like a type of person or someone. It could represent a lot of situations, right? A lot of people could relate and be like, oh, I know someone who has that problem in their life, or I know someone who's struggling with that, or I know someone who feels that pressure of being an older sibling and taking care of their younger siblings. I feel that pressure of fitting in, or there's this bully going around. Like, there's what's really cool, and I think that S.E. Hinton wrote it that way specifically so we could love these characters individually and see their strengths and differences, strengths and weaknesses, but also be able to, they're not fantastical characters, right? It's kind of based in real life. It is based in real life. Actually, it's based in her real life, and to some extent. So that was really cool to see. And I think that helped me realize why it's probably on a lot of reading lists, actually, for high schoolers, because it's written about kids that high school age. But I feel like it's a little deeper than, like, there's Grease they talk about, cliques and things, and you have that in West Side Story. You have kind of that gang rivalry as well. This one just felt a little bit more grounded, I think, a little more depth to the characters and relatable. Instead of like watching these two groups, you could relate to some of them. So I loved that. And then in this rabbit hole that I went down, right, I learned more about S.E. Hinton. And I found this quote from an interview that she did. I absolutely love it because they're asking about why she thought that the book has stayed popular, or why it was popular, right? And she says, every teenager feels that adults have no idea what's going on. Isn't that true? I remember thinking that. And then I became a high school teacher and I thought, oh yeah, I totally get the things that high schoolers are going through. But then I don't, We'll go back to the quote. That's exactly the way I felt when I wrote The Outsiders. Because she was a junior in high school when she wrote a majority of this story. She's a high schooler, all right? Amazing. Even today, the concept of the in-group and the out-group remains the same. The kids say, okay, this is like the preppies and the punks, or whatever they call themselves. The uniforms change and the names of the groups change, but the kids really grasp how similar their situations are to Pony Boys. And I just think that's so true. Like, even the pushes for, coolness is kind and be kind and fighting against cliques. So many high schoolers can relate to this feeling of there's this group, there's them, and then there's us, right? And sometimes high school is like this microcosm that reflects the world, I think. And if you break it down, you see a lot of just like principles or patterns that you can then see in the world, right? And how many times in life, this is what gets me thinking about this. It was a great musical. It got me really thinking, right? How many times in life do you associate a them versus us, right? Or, oh, she does that, or this type of people, they get this privilege, they have this strength, they have this weakness, and I don't. Whatever it is, we have this, we get into this mindset of them versus us instead of fighting against that mindset. And so it got me thinking and reflecting on my own places in life. Where in my life do I ever feel that them and us, maybe even subconsciously, I'm trying to like recognize my subconscious. What is the them? What is the us or the me? And instead of letting that difference feel like there's any animosity towards them or confusion or negative feelings towards them, instead take that combat and that animosity and turn it towards the framework, turn it towards that mindset. And how do I fight not against other people, but how do I fight against the mindset that there is a them and an us, right? That we're all actually just struggling with things, and maybe they have, for sure they have struggles in their life, and I have struggles in my life, and so I don't need to be comparing, right? Or judging, putting them in a box where I'm not in a box, or putting myself in a box, like all the things. So I was not expecting that life reflection and that depth to come from this musical. Okay? So while you all did great at warning me that it's emotional and intense and I would need tissues, I was not prepared for that emotional of a journey and that mental shift, that thinking. So that's awesome. And thank you for voting again for that. But that's been really cool. So I'm excited to read the book, see what's different, see what's the same, and kind of keep learning about these characters and what S.E. Hinton, what she might have wanted, people to still understand, or to understand more. Now, on the production side, I found a great slime tutorial. If you know, you know. And while it was great, pretty good, there were, obviously some not so clear spots of what was going on stage. However, that filled in with plenty of clips from the Tonys and parades and I pulled up Wikipedia. One of my favorite things is to listen to a musical while I'm reading the Wikipedia page, so I can make sure that I'm following along with the characters, because that's also something you guys mentioned, and you said pay attention to the characters as they're being introduced. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, I need some Wikipedia to help me out. And man, the production though, their voices, it was so good. One after another. One more guy came on stage, then another guy came on stage, then another guy started singing, and I was like, what is this? What is this cast? You know, these voices, like, it's like Newsies all over again. You get just these strong male voices all singing together. So great. Maybe it's because I'm a female and I can sing the soprano and alto parts. I think it's so great listening to a guy sing. Probably because, yeah, I can't do that. So I've got to appreciate other people for doing that. So the singing, incredible. The songs, there are some really catchy songs that I found myself singing, especially while I was putting together that story, right, for Throwback Thursday about 1967. I'm thinking, Tulsa, 1967, like bopping along to it. And oh, Great Expectations. I mean, the harmonies in that. Can you even? Stay Gold. Beautiful. Also, I think it helps with the message behind it, though, once you get that whole thing. So musically, I was a big fan of that. And yeah, that's what I'll say about that. Other sides of the production, though, I was not surprised when I looked up the Tony Awards that it won, and sound design and lighting design and direction were the other 3 Tonys besides Best Musical that it won. Direction, so the blocking the stage pictures, beautiful, amazing, okay? Especially though, the lighting. Holy cow, the fight scenes when they slowing them down, adding the lighting effect was just amazing. And especially the fight in the rain in Act 2. So Act 1 ends with a fight, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. Act 2's, though, adding the rain features, obviously there's that aspect that you know the actors are dealing with. It's actually slippery on stage. They're actually getting wet. They're actually dealing with all of this. And their choreography, it's cool because usually stage combat, like, you know, they're not actually hitting each other, but a lot of times scenes are still played out in normal pacing, right? Normal time. So you just kind of have to, right, suspend disbelief and know, okay, they're not really hitting each other, but it's fine. But the lighting made it seem more real, even though almost some of the hits were not as close or not as real. But the lighting, the beats with the music, especially, like, it just seemed to increase the intensity and the realism for me of the fight, which was just really awesome. So I came away, the story made me think, loved that story, but honestly, the lighting design, like, I was such a fan of the lighting and the stage pictures. What I could see of the stage, right? What I could see of the stage, oh man, the blocking, it was beautiful. The fight scenes were so well done. And the lighting was just so great. So I'm not even surprised. They deserve those awards, is what I think. So there it is. Hopefully you also have seen The Outsiders. And if you haven't, highly recommend you go look it up. Listen to the soundtrack if you want. I will be listening to that for a while I'm still reading the book and everything. But that has been an awesome January. A great way to start off these 12 new musicals this year. Not in a month. I don't have that much time. And I will be coming about February's musical soon on Instagram. So look for that. Help me vote for another one. I I might need something that's a little bit less intense emotionally, but it'll have been I'll wait a couple weeks, and so I'll be okay. So if there is another really intense emotional one, I'm here for it. So keep watching musical theater, keep having fun, keep engaging with us on Instagram. We absolutely love talking to you and hearing from you, and hopefully we're all learning together and celebrating musical theater as an art form and as a community builder. And like always, remember, there's nothing like live theater. See ya!